The Merchant and the Elf, Part 3, The Blackmere Road. Liora did not laugh. Tobin was beginning to suspect that elves required slightly more time than humans to determine when someone was joking. He stood and moved toward the opening. Behind him, Liora shifted uneasily. "Where are you going?" "To think." Her voice followed him more quietly. "Are you going to leave me?" Tobin stopped with one hand against the wooden frame. He did not turn around immediately. That question should have been easy. Leaving people was something Tobin understood. His father had done it. Greyhaven had done it in every way except physically. The town had never driven Tobin beyond its gates, but there were 1,000 smaller ways to tell a man he did not belong somewhere, and Greyhaven had practiced nearly all of them. Eventually, Tobin had learned his own rules. Never need anyone enough that their absence could destroy you. Never expect kindness that had not already been paid for, and never remain somewhere once staying became more painful than leaving. Most importantly, never become responsible for another person's problems when you were barely capable of carrying your own. They were not noble rules. They had kept him alive. Tobin finally looked over his shoulder. Liora sat among his crates with one hand resting over the fresh bandage at her side. She was beautiful. That was impossible to ignore. Even injured, filthy, and exhausted, she possessed the sort of face painters would probably spend years trying to capture. Her dark, wavy hair fell loosely around her pointed ears, and her strange brown and green eyes seemed brighter in the dim carriage than they had any right to be. But beauty was not what stopped Tobin. She looked alone. He knew what that looked like because he had seen it in his own reflection for years. His shoulders lowered. "I am going outside to check the road." Relief moved visibly through Liora's body. "Tobin," he paused. "Thank you." He looked at her for a moment, then shook his head. "Don't thank me yet." "Why?" "Because I haven't decided what I'm going to do." That was true. At least Tobin wanted it to be. He stepped into the rain. Bishop raised his head from beneath the oak as Tobin approached. Tobin stood beside him for a moment, looking into the darkness. "There is an elf in the carriage." Bishop continued chewing. "She murdered 3 men. The mule's jaw worked steadily. She has an ancient key the king's wardens want, and apparently it opens a door containing something that cannot be killed." Bishop finally looked at him. Tobin nodded. "Exactly." He rested his back against the tree and looked toward the northern road. He could still turn around. That was the sensible choice. He could take Liora back to Greyhaven, or better yet, find the wardens himself and hand her over before the situation became worse. There might be a reward. There almost certainly was. 23 silver would solve a great many problems. More than that would solve nearly all of them. He could keep the carriage, repair the axle, replace the rear wheel instead of patching it again. He could purchase real merchandise rather than whatever unwanted goods he managed to acquire cheaply enough to resell. Maybe he could leave Greyhaven properly and begin again somewhere nobody knew his father's name. Nobody would watch his hands when he walked into a shop. Nobody would hear Vale and decide what kind of man he was before he opened his mouth. All Tobin had to do was give the king's wardens one frightened elf. His eyes drifted toward the carriage. Through a narrow opening in the canvas, he could see Liora sitting beside the lantern. The black key rested in one hand. Her eyes were closed. Then Tobin noticed something he had somehow missed before. There were marks around her throat. He pushed himself away from the tree. Those were not tattoos. They were burns. A collar had been there. His face hardened. Someone had chained her. Someone had hurt her. Someone wanted her back. Tobin looked away toward the road and muttered beneath his breath. "Damn it," Bishop snorted. Tobin turned toward him. "Don't start." He had only taken 2 steps toward the carriage when something moved in the forest. Tobin froze. Bishop heard it as well. The mule's ears immediately turned toward the trees. Tobin's hand slipped toward his knife. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then a branch cracked. Liora. She appeared at the carriage opening almost immediately, one hand holding the frame for support. What? Tobin pointed toward the tree line. Something is out there. Her expression changed. Where? Beyond those trees. Liora climbed down. Tobin frowned as she came beside him. You should be lying down. She ignored him, eyes fixed on the forest. Can elves see in the dark? He whispered. Better than humans. Despite himself, Tobin looked at her. That seems unfair. Her hand rose sharply, silencing him. Tobin. The way she said his name ended the joke. He followed her gaze. What? We need to leave. Tobin looked into the trees. What is it? I don't know. His eyebrows rose. Then why are we? Because the forest has gone quiet. Tobin stopped. He listened. She was right. No insects, no night birds. Even the rain had softened until the drops sounded strangely distant. Bishop was no longer chewing. The mule stared rigidly into the woods. Tobin's mouth tightened. That's unpleasant. Liora seized his sleeve. Now. They moved quickly. Tobin stamped out the remaining fire while Liora gathered what little he had unpacked. He hitched Bishop faster than he ever had before, though his cold fingers slipped twice against the buckles. Another branch cracked behind them, closer. Tobin's hands stopped. Liora stood beside the carriage. Don't look. His head turned slightly toward her. That is an incredibly effective way to make someone want to look. Tobin. He looked. Something stood between the trees. He could not make out its shape, only its height. It was tall enough that its head nearly disappeared among the lower branches. Then it moved. That was enough. Tobin scrambled onto the driver's bench. Bishop. The mule needed no encouragement. The carriage lurched onto the road so violently that Liora grabbed the side to keep from falling. Tobin looked back once. Nothing followed. At least nothing he could see. Liora climbed onto the bench beside him, wincing as one hand pressed against her wound. What was that? She kept looking behind them. I don't know. You say that quite often. Her head turned toward him. Would you prefer I invent answers? Yes, Tobin replied without hesitation. I find false confidence reassuring. For a moment she merely stared at him. Then she laughed. The sound surprised him. It was warm, lighter than anything he had expected from her after the night they had shared. Tobin glanced sideways. Liora caught him looking. What? He turned his attention toward Bishop. Nothing. You were looking at me. I've never heard an elf laugh. Leora's eyebrows rose. Do humans believe we don't? Humans believe a great many things about elves. Her posture relaxed slightly. What things? Tobin's face tightened. This seems like a conversation better suited to daylight. Why? Some of them are offensive. Leora's smile broadened. Now I want to know. Absolutely not. They continued north. After another mile, Tobin slowed Bishop. The mule could not maintain the pace indefinitely, and Liora had grown noticeably paler beside him. Tobin looked toward her. You need rest. I'll survive. That wasn't confidence. Her eyes narrowed. What was it? Stubbornness. You recognize the difference? Tobin nodded gravely. I sell things to old women. Liora stared at him. What does that mean? Nothing. Another mile passed quietly before the road divided. The western path continued toward Belcross. The eastern road disappeared between two enormous stone pillars nearly swallowed by vines. Tobin stopped the carriage and climbed down. Liora watched as he retrieved a folded map from beneath the driver's seat. What are you doing? He spread the map across the bench, making a terrible decision. The King's Wardens knew he had been travelling toward Belcross. If they doubled back, the western road would be the first place they searched. There was another route north, older, longer, far more dangerous. It passed through the ruins of Blackmere, cut through the eastern forest, and eventually climbed toward the mountains. Tobin rested one finger against the faded line. This road, Liora leaned over the map. The moment she saw where his finger rested, the color seemed to leave what remained of her face. "You can't take that road." Tobin looked up at her. "Why?" "The Blackmere Road is abandoned." "Yes. There are things in those woods." "I've heard." Her expression became more serious. "No, Tobin, you don't understand." He began folding the map. "I understand that men with swords are using the good road." Liora stared through the two ancient pillars. "No one travels through Blackmere anymore." Tobin tucked the map beneath his coat. "Then there shouldn't be much traffic." She stepped closer. "I am serious." "So am I. People disappear there." His expression barely changed. "People disappear everywhere. Not like this." That made Tobin pause. He studied her face. "What is in Blackmere?" Liora looked toward the eastern forest. "That depends on which stories are true." Tobin sighed. "Wonderful. You cannot possibly be considering this." His hand closed around the edge of the driver's bench as he climbed aboard. "I am not merely considering it." Liora remained on the ground. For several seconds she stared up at him as though seeing him differently. "You're helping me." Tobin's expression changed. "Not much." "Enough." "I am helping myself survive." Leora's eyes softened. A small smile touched her mouth. Tobin immediately pointed at her. "Don't make that face." Her eyebrows lifted innocently. "What face?" "The one where you pretend I have done something noble." "I didn't say anything." "You were thinking it." Liora stepped onto the carriage. "You don't know what I was thinking." Tobin gathered the reins. "I sell things for a living. Knowing what people are thinking is half the occupation." She settled beside him. "And the other half?" His mouth curved, convincing them to pay too much. Liora smiled again. Tobin looked toward the road before she noticed that he had noticed. He clicked his tongue at Bishop. The mule stared into the Blackmere Road, then looked back at Tobin. "No," Tobin murmured. "I don't like it either." Bishop remained motionless. Tobin flicked the reins. Reluctantly, the mule stepped between the pillars. The Blackmere Road swallowed them. The forest changed almost immediately. Tobin could not explain how. The same black pines grew on either side of the road, yet their branches seemed thicker here, intertwining high overhead until the path became a tunnel beneath them. Ancient stones lay partially buried beneath the earth. Some had been carved with markings Tobin did not recognize. Liora did. He noticed her watching them from the corner of his eye. "What do they say?" She kept her eyes on the stones. "Nothing anymore." Tobin glanced at her. "That isn't an answer. They're boundary stones." "Boundary between what?" Leora's jaw tightened. She did not answer. Tobin sighed and looked forward. He was beginning to hate elven conversations. After another hour, exhaustion began to overpower fear. Leora's head dipped once, then again. Tobin noticed. "Go inside," she straightened. "I should stay awake." "Why?" "In case something happens." He glanced toward her. "If something happens, I intend to scream loudly enough to wake you." Leora's mouth curved. "You're not what I expected." Tobin frowned. "You didn't know me." "I meant humans." He looked genuinely offended. "That is somehow worse." Her smile remained for several seconds before slowly fading. "My family is important." Tobin's eyes stayed on the road. "Among your people?" "Yes." "How important?" The pause was immediate. Tobin looked toward her. Liora had already turned her face away. His eyes narrowed. "How important, Liora?" She remained silent. Tobin slowed Bishop until the carriage stopped. The mule released a long sigh. Tobin turned fully toward her. "You are being hunted by King's wardens. You killed 3 men escaping whatever happened to you. You're carrying an ancient key around your neck. And now you have casually mentioned that your family is important." He gestured toward her with one hand. "I would appreciate the remaining disaster before it introduces itself." Liora looked down. My father is the keeper of Ellerin. Tobin waited. She looked up. His blank expression confused her. You don't know what that means? I sell cooking pots. Liora blinked. The keeper rules the 7 houses. Tobin slowly turned forward. He looked at Bishop, then toward the road, then finally back at her. Your royalty? Not exactly. Tobin's eyes closed, his shoulders slumped. Whenever someone says not exactly after being asked whether they're royalty, they're royalty. My people don't use that word. Do people bow to your father? Yes. Do they bow to you? She hesitated. Sometimes. Tobin pointed toward her. Royalty. Tobin. He covered his face with both hands. For several seconds he remained that way. When his hands finally lowered, he looked exhausted beyond his years. You aren't simply an elf. No. You are an important elf, I suppose. With an ancient key. Yes. Being hunted by the crown. Liora gave a small nod. Yes. And whatever that key opens cannot be killed. Another nod. Tobin turned toward Bishop. I miss the preserves. Liora laughed. This time Tobin smiled with her, only briefly. Then he faced forward and encouraged Bishop onward. Get some sleep. Liora carefully moved into the rear of the carriage. Tobin? His shoulders lowered. What now? Why haven't you asked what happens if they get the key? His smile disappeared. Tobin looked into the darkness ahead. I assumed you would eventually tell me. The silence behind him stretched. When Liora finally spoke, her voice had changed. If the crown opens that door, Greyhaven will be one of the first towns it reaches. Tobin's hands stopped moving against the reins. He pictured the market. Mistress Havel, Master Rennick. The baker who overcharged him, the stable master who complained whenever Bishop occupied a stall. Everyone who had looked at Tobin Vale and decided they already knew him. He should have felt nothing. Instead, he saw the lanterns along Greyhaven's streets. The square in the rain, the hill beyond town, his mother's grave. His jaw tightened. What exactly is behind the door? Liora was quiet, then she answered. We don't know. Tobin turned slightly toward her. You said it couldn't be killed. That is what our histories say. Then your histories must know what it is. They knew once. He frowned. And? Leora's expression darkened. The pages describing it were removed. Tobin turned farther around. By whom? My father. He stared at her. Why? I don't know. For once, the emotion in her voice was not fear. It was anger. Tobin faced the road again. The carriage moved deeper into Blackmere. Neither of them knew that 4 King's Wardens were already riding back toward Greyhaven. Neither knew that before sunrise, Master Rennick would receive visitors asking very specific questions concerning Tobin Vale. Neither knew that the promise of a reward would suddenly sharpen Rennick's memory regarding exactly what Tobin had said, where he had been going, or how desperate he had seemed to keep his carriage. And neither of them understood the truth about the black key hanging around Leora's neck. The King's Wardens were wrong about it. Liora was wrong about it. Even her father had only understood a portion of what their ancestors had done. The key had never been created to keep the door closed. It had been created to open it. Far to the north, beneath mountains where tree roots had broken through forgotten halls and underground rivers travelled through chambers untouched by sunlight, something remained in darkness. For 300 years, it had known almost nothing. Then the key crossed the boundary stones of Blackmere. Something changed. Deep beneath the mountains, chains older than Greyhaven tightened. One link cracked, then another. In the darkness, something that had forgotten the meaning of waking opened its eyes. On the Blackmere road, Bishop suddenly stopped. Tobin lurched forward. He pulled gently against the reins. Come on. The mule refused to move. Behind him, Liora sat upright. "What is it?" Tobin leaned forward and peered into the road. At first he saw nothing. Then, far ahead between trees that had grown together like the bars of a cage, a pale green light appeared. It was not lantern light, it was not fire. Another appeared beside it, then another. Tobin's expression slowly changed. Liora climbed onto the bench beside him. Whatever exhaustion had remained in her face disappeared. "Tobin." He looked toward her. "Yes?" Her hand slowly closed around his arm. "Don't move." Tobin looked down at her fingers and then back toward the forest. "That advice seems to contradict nearly everything you've told me tonight." Her grip tightened. "Tobin." More green lights appeared between the trees. Not lights, eyes. Dozens of them. Liora whispered something in her own language. Tobin understood none of the words. He understood the fear in her voice. "What are they?" She did not answer. The eyes began moving. Slowly, toward the road. Tobin looked at her. "Liora." Her gaze remained fixed on the trees. "They're not supposed to be here." Tobin slowly drew his knife. Liora looked down at it. Then she looked at him. Her fear was momentarily interrupted by disbelief. "Is that your weapon?" Tobin glanced at the modest blade. "It has performed admirably against cheese." Leora's mouth twitched despite herself. The first shape began to emerge from the trees. Tobin's expression hardened. He shifted forward on the bench. "Get behind me." Liora stared at him. "You can't fight them." "I gathered that from your face." "Then why would I get behind you?" Tobin did not look at her. His eyes remained fixed on the thing emerging from the darkness. "Because if they're going to discover how useless I am, I'd rather they discover it before they reach you." Leora's expression changed. For one brief moment, she forgot to breathe. Tobin did not notice. The first creature stepped onto the road, and Tobin Vale, merchant of cracked pots, bruised preserves, and questionable financial judgment, finally understood something that probably should have occurred to him several hours earlier. He was never going to make it to Belcross.